Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to your weekly astrological weather. My name's Amanda Walsh. I'm the founder of Astrology Hub, and I am here with Predictive astrologer Anne Ortelee, our very favorite weather lady, weather person.
Weather woman. I'm a weather woman, yeah.
Weather woman. Oh my God, that's so
woman.
great.
Yeah.
Like Wonder Woman, but weather woman. Perfect. Okay, I love it. It's going to stick. And so, Anne, let's start with the intensity scale of 1 to 10 for the week.
Okay. Well, it can be a nice, easy week with a 4, right? Unless you have secrets that have to come out, and then it's going to be a 10. So we have to kind of like if you're kind of roaming around and you're hanging out, you've been doing your stuff, you've been doing your work, you're going to have an easy week. But if you have secrets that need to come out and be exposed or be told, this will be the week it happens, because Mercury is aspecting the COVID clump. And he's in Libra, which is the sign of talking, and he's running from 10 degrees to 28 degrees. 10 degrees to 22 degrees. So what he's going to do this week is he's going to argue with the COVID clump, and he's going to psychologically, this is we have the Mars in a crisis of action square to the COVID clump. Mercury is in a crisis of consciousness to the COVID clump. So he's going to be saying, you need to look at this, you need to see this, you need to pay attention to this. So if you have not been paying attention, let's say you're a life past 7, and you've been sweeping the stuff under the rug, and not looking, this will be a week of revelations for you, where you go, I don't know that I wanted to know that. And it's Mercury telling his tales, and he's in Libra, and he's answering to Venus and Leo. So he's saying it's kind of like Santa Claus, making a list and checking it twice. But it's also, if you've been on the bad list, this is when Mercury rats you out. Because he says to you, part of the purpose of the Saturn and Pluto conjunction is for us to take responsibility for our behavior, actions, comments. And so if you've been not being truthful, this is when Mercury tattles on you. So that will be hard, because you're not necessarily going to like being outed. On the good side, the sun in Virgo has a delicious new moon this week on Thursday morning at 25 in the US, 28 rising in the DC area, but it's trine to the Saturn-Pluto aspects. And, the COVID clump, exactly trying to Saturn. And so that's really delicious for new projects starting, recognizing that when he's in Libra on Friday, Saturday, it's a little bit bumpy because the Libra moon is mean, but the other moons this week are nice. So if you've been doing your work, you should get like, oh, you've been doing your work, here's a present, here's a reward, here's a forward motion. And also because the sun and the moon are in conjunct to Mars, this is where Mars may say to you, you have to prioritize your choices. You have to decide what are you committing to, what can you do, right? So I do a weekly meditation with a wonderful woman named Joanna Carroll. I'm going to tell this story because she has a couple of books out on the internet, and they're all about loving kindness and working with it. And Joanna started this, she's a brilliant woman, and she started this back when we did when the COVID stuff first started, and then she adjusted it a little bit. So it's been every other week. And so this week, Mars retrograde, she said, I'm going to be discontinuing the meetings on Sundays for a while because I have to focus on my path. And so I wrote her back and I said, of course you do. Because Mars now is saying pick among important things. But her books I bought the books last week, 2 weeks ago, and they arrived for me to bring on vacation, and I'm reading them here. And they're all about how do we act in a loving, kind manner. And of course, Mercury is answering to Venus and Leo right now, which is all about how do we do that creative, loving support of our life. So if you've been doing stuff, great. And if you haven't been, this is when he tells the truth. And you might go, don't say that. And Mercury's gonna. So there's a real interesting mix of the energy. So you basically are kind of getting a report card.
Report card.
How you been doing?
Okay.
So report. Are you going home with an A? Are you going home with a B? Or are you going home with a D or an F? Now, back when I taught, I had someone ask me to come teach computers, and so I would teach at lunchtime it's like a secretarial training school. And then they said, could you teach the math class? And I said, sure, I'll teach the math class. So I had this really smart student. She was really good. I'm coming in, she's going out. I said, where are you going? She goes, I'm leaving. I said, we have class. She goes, I know. I said, you're leaving? She goes, yeah. And, well, something about her grade. She goes, I got a D, I'm good. And so I went upstairs, and she did indeed have a D. And it was midterm, right? It's midterm grades, that's why this popped up. And I looked at her thing, and I thought, I'm the teacher, I'm just going to change that formula. So I did. And she got a letter sent home that she was in danger of failing the class because you had to report it at midterm. Because I just went, you're cutting my class and you're telling me? Like, no. So I said, Miss Ortelee, I got enough. I said, what do you mean? She said, they sent a letter home to my father. You should have seen my father went off the rocker. I said, I had a D. What do you mean I have F? I said, must have made a math error. And she did actually have a D. But I was like, no, I don't think so. So I just tweaked the formula. I didn't do anything. It didn't affect any of the other kids' grades. I just got her. And boom, she got the letter home. And that's what Saturn's doing this week. He's the teacher. Now, I remembered, of course, when that happened, because I was really mad, when I was in college, and I had flunked out of college my freshman year, and my father made me sign a promise. I partied a little bit too much, Amanda. I was not making the morning classes, and I was drinking too much at night. Drinking age was 18 back then. So I had to sign a promissory note when I flunked out at Christmas. And really wasn't incomplete, which I didn't know, averaged in as an F, but my father was like, I'm not wasting any more money on you. You're a deadbeat, I'm not. And my mother's like, she deserves a second chance. So I signed this note saying if I got less than 2.5, which is a C+, I owed him the money for the tuition and the room and board because I basically screwed up. So I signed that note. So second semester, sophomore year, it kind of slipped a little. I called my father and I said, this is where I learned a better lesson. I go, per semester or cumulative? He goes, per semester. Not a good answer. So I was begging for grades. And I had a statistics teacher, again, math, and he had a thing where you had to send in 10 homework assignments. And if they were late, you dropped a letter grade. And I'd had them first semester and second semester. So this was second semester, sophomore year. So I went up and I said, Dr. Carpenter, look, I really, I've gotten A's and everything, but because I haven't handed homework in, you're going to give me a B. Can I just ask you to make it a B+? Because I have this thing with my dad. And he goes, Ann, he said, if you had slipped across the line, if you had inadvertently fallen across the line, I might do it. He said, but you went, I'm giving you a B. So I finished doing that to this young woman, and I wrote Dr. Carpenter. And I said, I don't know if you remember, but back when I was a sophomore, a wise fool, right? Sophomores are wise fool. And you did this. And I just want you to know that example stuck with me. So I did this to her, but I want to write you to thank you for teaching me responsibility. And yeah, if you screw up and you don't hand in homework assignments because you just think you don't have to do it, or you hand them in all at once because that's how you do it, there's consequences. So this is what Saturn's doing with us this week. If you did good, you get a plus. You get a go ahead. You're doing great. Fire, go, go. If you've been doing bad, you get a note sent home to your parents or to you, and there's consequences to pay because of the choices you made. So it's a fun week. Wow. Both good, and in that case, it's a story about me, and I don't think that student listens to me. A really long time ago and far away. That was in the 90s.
So, Anne, when you're talking about good and bad, you did good or you did bad. Of course, anybody, this can bring up things of, guilt and shame and, all these. What kind of good and bad are you talking about? Are you talking about good and bad with your own soul and your own contract? Or are you talking about good and bad the way society sees good and bad? Like, what kind of good and bad are you talking about?
Your individual Saturn, like for the Saturn workshop, do your Saturn, your individual Saturn talks about what your personal good and bad is. Because that's where your shame, that's where your authority figures are, so my father's case, Venus, Saturn in the 8th in Scorpio, my father's like, they just want more of my money and you're a screw up. And my mother's going, she's my kid, she deserves a second chance. All right, so they both argued in that argument. My mother ultimately won with a contractual, sign the contract, which I did. And
that was a good idea that your dad.
Graduating cum laude, and I also had made a bet with my father before I went to college. He said to me, "You're going to flunk out." I said, "I'm not going to flunk out because you're going to flunk out." And I made a bet with him that I owed him $100 if I flunked out, so I had to pay that bet too. $100 was a lot of money. I only made $1.85 an hour back in the 70s. But when I graduated cum laude, so he gave me $350 for graduating cum laude, which meant I pulled it up out of the pen. And of course, I had a B in theology, but once I hadn't handed in the final paper. And so then, of course, I also lied then, and I said, well, I handed the paper in, I slipped it under the door, and Mr. Donovan and my father kind of looked at each other like, well, we've heard that slip it under the door thing. And for years after, my father would go, when you get to heaven, it's going to be, I didn't slip the paper under the door on your forehead. And at some point I confessed, Dad, I didn't slip the paper under the door. He goes, I know you didn't. But it's that, that authority. So it's your own personal authority. And of course, it's wherever you've been having the Saturn-Pluto conjunction in your life, that's where the accountability is now. And then wherever you have Saturn and Pluto living natally in your chart, that's where you're learning all these lessons from Saturn and Pluto. So it's always important to when we understand transits, we look at where they've been acting, and they've been in there for a while. I mean, everybody's having it somewhere in their charts. So wherever your personal accountability is, and you have been doing it or not doing it, this is when Saturn steps up and says, I think you kind of screwed up here. Or he goes, good job, forward you go, you get to go back to college. And actually, when I went back the fall of my junior year, Dr. Carpenter went, and you're back. And I looked at him and went, no thanks to you. And I never talked to him again. I'm Aquarius rising, we get like that. But when I was, whatever I was, when I flunked it, I didn't flunk her, she ended up getting a grade. But when she did, I have to go to class, I got a D. They only send letters out for Fs. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know that, so I'm going to give you an F. So they get a letter, like whatever.
So it's like
watch for the echo in your life, right? What happened before that's happening again to teach you something, because Saturn always teaches us stuff. So there's a story that's underneath all this that you've been working on, trying to figure out the structures of, trying to release the story of, trying to shift it into a better place.
Okay, so everyone looks at their Saturn. And for those of you who don't know how to decode your Saturn, you could check out the Do Your Saturn workshop that we have.
Or you can just do your chart, and it looks like the little 4 in your chart. And there's like 3 planets.
See where it is.
The one that looks like a 4, the one that looks like an H with a line through it, and the one that looks like a PL or a little guy screaming. Because Pluto can either be a PL or a little guy screaming, depending on what software you use. I always think of him screaming. He's like, ah! He's got his hands up in the air, That's why I use the PL.
I've never seen that before.
You've never seen that?
Yeah.
It looks
okay, so we look at where our Saturn is.
And then you look at where your natal
Saturn
is.
Natal Saturn and transiting Saturn.
Natal Pluto and natal Jupiter, but Jupiter's usually easy.
Right.
So, those are where that's where your chart says, this is how I'm supposed to do the lesson, right? So my Pluto's in the 7th house. The clients were listening to the podcast. My Saturn's in 8th. You and I had a conversation at the beginning about not talking about people we know, which I kind of violated, but not really, because they were all, whatever. It was not long ago and far away. And value and money, and my father, Saturn, the authority, Saturn, the teacher looking at my father going, yeah, right, she didn't slip the paper under the door. We both know that. But I'm using that story as an illustrator for this time. And I had Mercury and Libra on my Mercury. I signed a contract saying I'd pay my father back, if I didn't get C+. And that story, and you're all going, I didn't know she flunked out of college. She used to drink and party a lot. Yeah, she did. I mean, I stopped because it wasn't a good outcome, right? So, but it's understanding that we're at this accountability time, and we're halfway through the transits. So Saturn and Pluto are saying to you, have you learned what you need to know? Have you done your work? Have you shifted your life? If you have, we're going to give you, and you might get a reward in one part of your life and a little penalty in another part where Mercury lets you out.
So, Anne, could the secrets, I mean, so there's secrets that will be shown to ourselves, things that we need to see in ourselves.
Or the public.
Or the public, right?
And Mercury's in Libra telling secrets on the Gemini in charge, right? There's a lot of books coming out now. Mercury and Libra telling secrets. Mercury's telling the secrets, opposite Saturn and Pluto, about the authorities. So it also is.
And then we could receive a secret too, correct? Like we could receive someone else's secret, which also could be disturbing. Whether it's
yeah.
Okay. All right. So.
Well, it's a secret that people know, and this is when they tell it. So it's not really a secret. You know it on some level. So I know of someone, and this is not anybody that knows me. I heard it's threefold, so I don't think they listen to the podcast either. They were told that their younger sister wasn't really, the father wasn't really the father of their younger sister. It was another person. So it was kind of a big blow. You know, it was a hammer of Thor in the family. So they're all on vacation this week. Hi. I don't know who that is. I'm at this other house. So this guy came over and knocked on the door. All right, well, I'm not sure. Sonia! There's a guy in a truck outside. A yellow and orange truck. He's in a yellow and orange outfit. He knocked on the door. No, whatever. Let's see who it is. Not my house. Not my repairman. Yeah. The message. Mercury just arrived and knocked on the door, right? So yeah.
So you were telling a story.
What was your question?
You were telling a story.
Yeah. So she got. They found out, and so now they're all on vacation this week. So we'll see what happens because they're all together after this reveal happened. And someone had called uninvited and said it and said it to them. You know, so and so's not your father. This person's your father.
Wow.
You know, kind of rude. But for whatever reason, they felt compelled to say it, and then, you know, of course, it causes a lot of brouhaha. And I'm like, well, you know, go get ancestry testing and see, because, you know, I'm kind of like, it's probably true with these aspects. People are getting outed.
Okay. So Susan asked.
So that can be it too.
Susan asked, any suggestions for this interim when Jupiter is just direct and Saturn still retrograde? So any suggestions for this interim period?
Well, Jupiter is now going to roll forward, and he's going to meet up with Saturn in December. They're going to meet up on December 22nd. So they have a long journey to go. It's really more, we're back to March. We're back to February and March. So if we look at Woodward's reveals that Trump knew different things he didn't disclose, we're back to the future. It's very much back to March for many things. Stuff that started in March that we thought about in March, we didn't do, we did do, changes we made, all that's all back to March. And then Jupiter says, okay, I'm going forward with the vision of how you're to relate to people. When Saturn goes direct, he's going to say, okay, now we're doing the new work because we finished the review. And when the Pluto goes direct, I think he goes direct on October 2nd, Pluto says, all right, we're up and running. And so all three of them, once they're all moving direct, then we really take off. Jupiter taking off, he's like, okay, let's get everything ready, let's go. And we're looking at, let's go do it again. And so, but he is, remember, Jupiter's in the sign he really doesn't like. And this week when Mercury opposes Athena on the 13th, and then Mercury opposes Jupiter on the 17th, and he opposes Pluto on the 21st, and then he opposes Saturn next week. I don't have a date for that. So any of those dates can be a reveal, and you can be really mad on the 15th because Mercury's in a real hard aspect with Mars, and you can be very teary and crying on the 18th because Mercury's kind of arguing with what you heard. The Sun this week trines Pluto on the 14th, and last week he trined Jupiter, and this week he trines Saturn on the 17th. So the sun is giving you positive go, go, go. He's going to square the nodes on the 16th, so he's going to ask you to make a choice about stuff and how it moves. And the moon is in Leo today, leaves with a trine to Mars on the 15th, so that's nice. He goes into Virgo. Virgo, he leaves with a trine to Saturn in the morning, right after the new moon. And then he goes into Libra on the 17th at 2:55 East time, and he goes with an argument on the 19th, big fight, Moon Mars. Big breakup weekend for the people that are, I've been telling you I've been unhappy with this for a long time, and now I'm leaving, right? That kind of energy. Then he enters Scorpio on the 19th at 2:30, and he ends with a sextile to the sun on the 21st, and then he enters Sag on the 21st, and he ends with a trine to Mars. So the hard days are when he's in hard emotions around psychological processing, around your behavior or your actions, the 17th to the 19th. So, but it's a new moon energy, so you're kind of like, yeah, new moon in Virgo, trying the Saturn, I probably shouldn't do that anymore. Probably should do something else.
So tell us a little bit more about that new moon. Like what kind of intentions, if we're working with our intentions at the new moon?
Really juicy new moon, because always the new moon is on near the part of fortune. This new moon is on the ascendant in the East Coast folks. But most importantly, it's approaching a trine to Saturn, which it has like minutes later, the moon trines, and then the sun trines Saturn on the 17th. So he's, Virgo moon, I love Virgo. I mean, I'm a Virgo, so I love Virgo anyway. But Virgo new moon, you're always like, okay, this is my list of stuff I'm going to do. And so he's all about what your tasks, what are you oriented towards, what's important, how you're going to do it, get it figured out. And then the inconjunct to Mars, because he's inconjunct to Mars, he says to Mars, maybe I shouldn't be doing that anymore. Maybe it's a little bit too much. Maybe I'm a little overloaded and I need to make an adjustment, which is what my friend Joanna Carroll did. It was like, I can't, I have to do my path, and I know my path is this, and so I have to adjust the direction of how I'm moving. I have to make a change. And it is a physical change in your behavior, because it's psychological, I can't do that anymore. Not good outcome. What do I do? So that kid never skipped class again.
Exactly. So it's those hard lessons. It's like the tough love where it hurts while it's happening, but it's good for you in the long term. And it might even be hard to admit that in the moment, but usually it's the thing you look back on and go, that was tough to hear, but I'm really glad that happened because I changed and I'm better now.
Right. And so I actually wrote Dr. Carpenter an apology letter. After that student, I told him the story, and I said, I remember you did it with me, and I was furious with you, and I just want to write you and tell you that was one of the most pivotal learning experiences in my life when you went to me. You're a professor, you're a professor of psychology at my college, and you go, you did that to me, Anne. And I went, I never thought of it that way. I just thought it was a stupid assignment. It's busy work. I don't need to do this. I get statistics. I'm getting an A. Give me a B. I don't give a care. And then, but he wrote me back and he said, thank you so much. Your letter really made my year. It came at a really great time. And I really, a lot of times you wonder, if you've had an impact on people. I said, oh, totally. You had an impact. And twice when I was rude to you at the end, no thanks to you, I'm back. My little wicked witch of my Mercury Mars. And so I apologize for my behavior. This is a great week if you want to apologize for your bad behavior with somebody too, because this is the week of accountability. So if you get a letter from someone who says, I realize I made a mistake and you were actually really nice to me, take it as how it's offered. The person is reflecting on their behavior and having a learning experience and wanting to share it with you.
So we also could be proactive about, like, if you do an internal scan and there's that like place that gets snagged, you're like, oh shoot, like I got to do something about that. It'd be a good time to just proactively do it instead of letting it bite you in the, what, right? I mean, we don't
time to take stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have to wait for it to come to us. We can actually go seek it down.
Well, that's the beauty of
for
astrology. It always encourages us to, I mean, the idea of you guys listening to the podcast is to know good day, bad day, easy day, hard. Ooh, people are going to be fighting. Oh, they're trying to fight with me. I don't want to fight with them. Or I do want to fight with them because I had it, you know, like it makes you conscious. That's what I love about it. It doesn't take anything. It doesn't do anything. We get to choose our free will with it, but we have the energy coming at us in our form of, you know, all of our transits are relationships. We're all having relationships from folks. So with the Mercury aspect opposite the Saturn and Pluto, we see the fires in California and and Washington and Oregon, and the people there are saying, I can't breathe, which is the theme of the year. How we take our breath. And a breath is where we hold our lungs are where we hold our grief. And of course, 3 minutes without air, we die. So we're all being asked to breathe deeply of the changes that we need to release, the grief that we need to release, the sadness. And a lot of times in our life, we have, you know, to your point, do a scan where you get stuck. We have these sadness points. And sometimes it's not appropriate. You know, if you do the AA rules, they have we make amends where it doesn't do harm. So sometimes it's just lighting a candle and asking your higher guides to go talk to the other person, higher guides, and saying, hey, you know, we had this exchange and I kind of feel bad about it and I want to release it and give it back to you. And I want to ask you back for the stuff I gave you on a spiritual level, because we have, you know, we give them back their clothes and their keys and their record albums or their CDs or their whatever we have, and they give our bad stuff back, but we have to do it on a soul level too. So this is a great week to do that with the new moon in Virgo, because Virgo is all about appreciation for what the services were received also, because they give a lot of the service, but they also are, you know, you're really grateful to have the massage. You're really grateful to have the grocery clerk ringers, the butcher that cooked the dishes that are in the people that cooked in the deli, and you're like, oh my God, this is so delicious. You're really grateful for that. So it's appreciation for the Virgo folk too, or the Virgo energies of your life where you're served by Virgos, because Virgo's always served. So your Virgo house is where your chart is of service, but it's also where you have now an opportunity with the sun going through the Virgo house to be really appreciative of Virgo. And of course, Virgo rules pets. And a lot of the stuff with Facebook about new kittens coming in and dogs coming in, and a lot of puppies and kittens rolling, or older puppies and kittens leaving, because this is the animal. And of course, animals are structural. There are habits. You know, we take them out for walks, we feed them, they bark. You know, they really help structure our life. So this is a big time for people restructuring their life, including with their pets and their habits and routines and whatever. So yeah, big week, and positive because it's a new moon, and it's very juicy. It's a really potent new moon, more for the trying to the COVID planets. And it says, hey, now that you've figured this out, this is what you can do about it, right? And this is how you take care of yourself, Virgo stuff. And so part of the, you know, what I took for the reveal of Trump knowing it was a dangerous virus and not really telling people, you know, I mean, aside from whatever his personal issues around it are, but now we know, now we do need to take care of ourselves. Because he actually said, yeah, it's dangerous. So maybe people will listen now and wear masks and do protective behavior, because that is how you take care. I mean, the whole idea of Saturn and Pluto is nobody's taking care of you. Who are you going to take care of, and how do you take care of yourself? Because he kind of blows up, when they're Saturn and Pluto together, blows up the structures. That's what pandemics do. They're arbitrary. That's what wars do. They happen on Saturn and Pluto aspects. So the war, you know, the bomb drops and your sister gets killed and you're fine. The pandemic comes and your uncle dies, but you're fine, right? So that randomness of the Saturn and Pluto, like you don't know where it's going to hit, but you do know it's hitting. That's the part that we want to work with as proactively and consciously as we can. And that's also why it incites fear, you know, duck, the bomb's coming. Panic, pandemic, the God pan, you know, those are all the same word. So it's all ruled by Pan. And of course, he was the devil. He was, you know, to Google Pan's mythology, he was kind of a little, not always a nice guy, but he always taught you something. So, yeah.
Okay.
Makes sense. That was kind of a long.
It's great. It's great.
Neptune. Happy Neptune aspects this week, which is, actually we had them last week, but Neptune was all about like, okay, now we're seeing things we hadn't seen before. Because Neptune's at 18 Virgo, so that was 19 Virgo, so that was last Friday. And then, Jupiter going direct. He's going to come to oppose Neptune in a couple of days because he's stationing opposite Neptune. So that's also kind of recalibrating your dream, and saying, well, what is my dream?
So no, what I was pondering as you were speaking is the pan thing, because isn't there different ways to see that? Because and the reason why I didn't say it is because I don't have a total grasp on it. Because some people say that he was cast into the role as the devil, but he's actually not the devil. Like the devil in that he's evil. But so I was trying to wrap my head around what I've heard.
Yeah. Well, he brings things around, right? So he's got hooves and he has horns. He's a goat, and so that's where he got that acclimate, because Saturn, of course, in Capricorn is the sea goat, right? Little hooves and little horns, right. And goats have horns and whatever. So he's got that, and of course Saturn, Liz Green's book, and you look at an old devil. Most people look at Saturn and go, but we, psychologically aware, go, oh, Saturn, you're my work in the world. So that part I go, like I hire an accountant and a bookkeeper, because I don't like that accounting part, but I do astrology because I love the occult stuff. But I don't do the witch part of astrology. Like, I'm not going to cast a spell on you, but I get people come to me and going, I cast a spell. I'm like, you got to get rid of it, because I have a prohibition against dark magic in my chart, or any kind of magic. But I'm also aware of, I probably did a bad thing in the last lifetime with magic, so I can't do it this lifetime. And it's like being aware that the Saturn offers you your work, but it also offers your prohibition. And how do you work with it? So it's interesting. And of course, astrology is used in magic. So I know about that section, but I don't go there. That's Saturn there. So it's being aware of what Saturn invites you to and not.
Right. Yeah.
So they're a little.
But there's so many sidebars off of what you just said too. I don't know if you can go into them. But again, it's kind of this idea. It's like Pan getting cast in a certain role. That's like, is that actually true? And is that actually helpful? Like for us to keep Pan in that, or like, can we have a different kind of relationship with these energies so that they aren't disempowering, like we don't feel at the mercy of them, right? Even the word witch, I've worked really hard with my daughters to redefine witch, because from what I have learned, the church put witches but witches were midwives and shamans and medicine women, and but there was a whole vendetta, there was a whole PR campaign to make them evil,
bad. Yep. And take their property because they live past their husbands and they own stuff. So I burn you, I get your property, right? So there was a lot. I mean, there's a great, I wouldn't watch it with the girls yet because they're too young, but there's a great series of movies called The Burning Times that talk about, and really what a witch means is to bend the will of.
I thought
right?
witch meant spiritual woman, simply spiritual woman is what I've heard.
It means spiritual woman,
yeah.
But it's also bending the will of. It's got a bending quality to it, that you bend the energy, right? And so if you're a healer and you come and somebody's really sick and you heal them, and they go, "Ooh, how do you know how to do that?" And, how do you know how to do that? It's understanding. And I know back when I did a lot of work on redefining witch, it was, I had a t-shirt that I had in Salem, "Are you a good witch or a bad witch?" The Wizard of Oz. Or I'm not a witch at all, Dorothy says. But we all have the ability to create things, and then how do we use it? So I can use my powers. I have a thing in my chart that says use your powers for good, and I'm like, okay. As I understand good, which is do no harm, and I do, like, if I give it to you, I would be happy to get it back threefold. That's the way I work. So I give you $100, I get $300 back. I steal $100 from you, somebody steals $300 from me, and I'm so clear on my intent in any exchange.
Really good.
Because I want to be really clear with my Saturn Venus. You know, like what is our energetic exchange and why? And when something happens that's a little bit fluey, that, you know, I mean, you and I had that, because I had my website up I had the Saturn workshop on my website, and I didn't switch the link to you, so I got sales because we were promoting it here. But then I sent you, I said, oh, Amanda, we got sales on it, so here's how many we had, and mailed it to you. And you went, well, that was nice of you to tell me that. And I'm like, well, of course I told you that. And then I thought, oh, well, yeah, I guess I could have stolen it.
I would have never known.
You would never have known, right? You would never have known. I could just have switched it. But, you know, but I was aware of this bump in activity was because you and I were doing this here, and our deal was we split the Saturn workshop. So I'm like, if I sold it, I should split it with you, because you're splitting what you're getting with me. So I get the purpose of that, but you were surprised. And I'm like, well, why would you be surprised? And then I'm like, oh, well, she doesn't really know me that well. Okay, got it. You know, just, you know, but to me, that's how you live. But that's how I was raised too.
Right. So, but it wasn't surprise. It was more just appreciation.
You may have a Saturn that's a thief.
Yeah.
They want you to be a thief.
Right.
And you're living a life of thieving. That's your life. But this is the year when you get caught.
Accountability. I remember Christopher Renstrom saying the theme of the year is accountability. So Anne, let me sum this up. So basically we have a week of secrets. So secrets being revealed, revelations. These can be things that you've hidden. They can be things that other people have hidden, but the things that need to come to light. And again, I never think about this as punishment. This is always bring to light, so we have the opportunity to transform and look at it and work with it and become better. It's so if you
but Amanda, you have Saturn in Leo, right? So Saturn in Leo goes, my work is to bring things to light. So you like things. You're like, it's a growth opportunity. And I'm willing to bet there's people in the audience going, God damn, Amanda and her growth opportunities, you know, because
Saturn it is. Well, you can choose to not let it be that, and then it's just going to suck. Yeah. Or you could choose to let it be that, and you're going to get better through it. It's a choice. Okay, that's how I see it. Right.
Always, that's your Gemini moon going, it's a choice. Working with your Saturn.
And the awareness. The awareness gives you the choice, though, because if you're not aware of it, you can't make the choice because it's hidden, right. And so you don't know.
Yeah.
So yes, okay.
You didn't know.
Then we have a good time for new projects. Right, exactly. There's going to be forward motion. So if you've been doing your work, there's like almost maybe even an acceleration, or at least a feeling of reward that you're like, okay, green light, keep going, keep doing what you've been doing. Correct? Okay. This is an opportunity to pick important things. So to prioritize, to create your life in a way that demonstrates your priorities too. So if there's certain things like your teacher did and said, my priority is my path, but that means I need to eliminate something. And she did that. So this is a time to maybe eliminate things that are distracting from your path or from your priorities and get aligned with what those priorities are. And again, create the daily structure and the rituals and the things that you need to be able to do those on a daily basis. Right? This is a report card week. So this is like midterms. Okay, midterms.
Midterm report card. The note gets sent home to your parents.
Yes.
And Saturn is your parent. So you get the note, hey, you didn't really do that. I'm like, oh yeah, let me catch up. Let me do that.
Okay. And it's a new moon week. So this is a time for setting some intentions. This is Thursday. The inner circle will be doing this together, but these are logistical, practical, again, like the way that I've been having this overwhelming urge to like do exactly that is re-look at the way the day is structured and make sure that I'm able to show up for the things that I need to show up for. And maybe that even means calling in additional support so that I can do that, so that I can have the things I really need to be doing front and center stage. But okay, so a reorientation around those things. And then also a good time to show appreciation for services received, for people who have served you, for people who have shown up for you and been there for you and helped you in any way, shape, or form. This is a great opportunity to use the cosmic reminder of Virgo and service to say, hey, thank you. That meant a lot to me. That really helped me. Here's how. Alison Armstrong is a woman that I've done a lot of studying with. I don't know if you know her. She wrote Keys to the Kingdom and The Queen's Code, and she's written some great books, mainly around like male-female dynamics. However, actually this is male-female dynamics a lot of times, or masculine-feminine, much better way to say it. Yeah. But how to receive, how to actually receive in a way that the person who gave to you feels acknowledged. And she goes through this whole process of like, let's say you give me this pen, Anne. Most of us go, oh, thanks, and like toss it. Like, oh, thanks, Anne, that's cool.
Sophia, come get the pen. Your mother's going to throw it on the floor to me.
Exactly. Or it could be like, oh, wow, Anne, thank you so much for this pen. I love the color. Blue is one of my favorite colors. And it's going to be so perfect when I go to write my notes on the daily broadcast. And I'm out of pens. Like, thank you so much. But there's a different way to receive. So like, oh, thanks, cool. And like, that's how we normally do it. So just being able to receive when people actually give to us, it helps. For me, it's an energetic thing. Like the energy actually moves and it goes back to the person who gave you something and they feel acknowledged. And there's that, gift right there between you and another person who really just wanted to give you something, and to say thank you is huge. So
because we love you.
So that's our week. That sounds like it's going to be interesting. We can talk about.
It could be really fun. And, whatever the reminder is that you didn't do, handle it.
Right. Exactly.
As soon as you can.
And can you even say thank you for it? Like while you're in it.
Say thank you, reminder. Thank you for sending me that note and reminding me I needed to do it. So yesterday I made a point of catching up on a lot of my emails from when I was sick, including things I owed people. So at the end I wrote, do I owe you anything else? Please let me know, because I'm going through my emails. But if you know I owe you something, send me a note and I'll do it, kind of thing. So,
right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. All right, Anne, thank you so much. Thank you for all of this amazing wisdom. I hope you enjoy. How much longer are you going to be out there?
I'm here till Friday. Go back to the city on Friday. I mean, Sag Harbor is about 2 hours east of. It's like in the Hamptons, but it's like a little cute town. It was a whaling town, so it has a really nice harbor, and it's just very quaint. It's not like it's kind of. I don't know the right word for it. It feels like you're back in Mayberry. You're back. There's like a pharmacy. There's a hardware store. There's a pizza parlor. Everybody's walking on the street, and it's very. You cross across the street, and everybody stops and waves. It's kind of one of those places. So it really feels like a whole other world. From New York, for sure. So, and Sonia has this beautiful house, and we come out here. We were talking about it on Saturday night when we did my birthday. And we've come out here pretty often, and usually we just come for the weekend. But this year we were supposed to have an astrology conference in Colorado, which of course got canceled. So we all had planned to go to the conference and then do a little road trip and go to a spa and all that. We all had the week off. So we just came here instead. So it's really nice, and it's nice to have 5 days, 7 days, however long we're here. Yeah, so I'm really, it's just such a gentle, loving house. It's so beautiful. So.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad that you get to be out there.
My
with
next
friends
thing is going to my bathing suit. Yeah, I know. Yeah, we had 4 of my friends. There's 5 of us, so 4 of them. Yeah. So, and the next thing is putting on my bathing suit and going and sitting by the pool and reading my book.
Awesome. Sounds perfect. Okay. And so for any of you that are thinking about adding more astrology studies into your daily routine and prioritizing your astrology studies, we do have the Astrology Foundations open. You can go to astrologyhub.com/foundations. And this is taught by Rick Levine, who we talked about last week. He's amazing, incredible teacher. I do the Thursday Cosmic Connection with him if you want to check him out. But that class is now open. You can reserve your seat. Class doesn't officially start until October 4th, but you can get started on a couple of your bonuses in the meantime and just make your claim. I'm here and I'm going to be in this class. That's astrologyhub.com/foundations. And Anne, when we announced this last week, so many people wrote in the chat, when's Ann going to teach again? When's Ann going to teach? And so we do have the Do Your Saturn workshop. So go check that out. That's astrologyhub.com/Saturn. And Ann, when are we going to teach?
Ann's off of bed rest and she's back to work now. So yes, Ann will be teaching.
Yes, no, we've talked about making some more workshop style courses available with Ann, and maybe we'll do a fuller course with Ann someday. I don't know. That'd be great.
I'm up for it. It sounds
awesome. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Ann, enjoy your time out there at Sag Harbor. Happy birthday again. And we'll see you next week. Have a great week, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, as always, for making astrology a part of your life. Catch you on the next episode.